So as part of my segment, I also wanted to share the process I use to identify what tools on askSlim to find the symbol that I was going to do my trade plan on. And so I started with the charts hub. Or if you can just raise your hand if you see the charts hub. Okay, excellent. So our charts hub is a fantastic resource to be able to efficiently get access to our weekly and daily cycle analysis. So essentially, you can click on any one of the focus list symbols that we have on the left-hand side here, which include stocks, ETFs, and various futures markets. And then as I was running through the symbols and having a lot of fun checking out all of the work that the team does, I settled in on GS, and GS caught my attention. And as I wanted then to shift into a work mode, analysis mode, I jumped off of our charts hub because that gave me the idea around which symbol I was going to select. And then from there, as RV, as Slim, as Katie did, we have the awesome opportunity to jump directly into the grids that the team prepares. And then I was able to do my work off of it. So the symbol I selected again was GS, Goldman Sachs. And we're doing here our trade planning process. And that trade planning process has 5 key trade planning questions we want to answer. And you can see how Slim, RV, Katie, all answered these questions as we go. Number 1, what's that outlook period? Very important to be able to identify your outlook period because then you're going to go do your work off of those charts around that time frame. And number 2 is directional bias. You need to have a way to filter the market information so that you can determine your directional bias. And as each one of us step that through, we look at our cycle patterns, our cycle structures. We look at the translations of the cycle. We look at cycle timing. We look at momentum. And I'm going to step through real quick how I identified my bias, which was on the long side or more bullish. So you can see here that GS made a cycle low. And then in that next rising phase to peaking phase, we made a peak out over here. Well, when that trough came out in October-ish, late October, it came over here, and that's our anchor point. If I use our Fib extension or Fib retracement tool, that will give me a sense of some key levels. And a very important level for us is going to be that 78.6, which was right around this level here. And once we actually, if I redraw this one, I missed that. Here we go. So I can be more precise. It should be up here on that Fib, that 78.6, which suggests that we now over the last 2 weeks, we're going to have 2 closes above that 78.6. Which suggests there is a shift in that daily or that weekly cycle pattern, opening up the door to continued higher prices. So now that I have my bias in place, I also then want to, which also is determined by momentum. So we have our momentum study on here, our reversal scout. That also gave me the indication of a current positive momentum condition along with the positive cycle structure warning and the fact that we have a good amount of time left in this rising peaking phase, which could go out for another couple months. It doesn't mean we'll have a linear move straight up, but there are high odds that the upward advance is likely to continue. And then from there, we want to pick out our key levels on the upside. We want to identify our reevaluation. And based on this overall positive condition, I used our swing high, swing low analysis, which helped me then to give 3 upside projections. And based on the current positive cycle structure, the first one would be that cycle peak. So that would be projection number 1. And then using the swing high, swing low analysis that I did, there are 2 upper projections. One is more of a maybe an extreme look, but GS has put in runs of over 100 points in a rising peaking phase. So it's not out of the question that if it did it again, we could get up into that 3rd projection zone. To get a real good look at the condition on the daily chart. So again, I'm looking at a 3 to 8 week outlook. But over the short term here, GS is still very powerful. And as Slim described and RV and Katie, we look at the cycle translation, and GS is going to have a positive right-hand translation where the peak is going to form in the right-hand side. And given the current strength of this move, there's potential that GS might not peak until it gets up into these upper boundaries that I've identified here. Now, similar to the team, also we're coming into that late peaking phase where a pullback is going to be likely. and looking at it being a rather shallow corrective period, getting into maybe the 23.6 to the 38.2 from that swing low up to that peak, and then looking at those being potential entry areas. If it got below this level here, right around 319.50, that would suggest to me that I have to reevaluate this overall plan. But based on the current pattern structures, pattern translations, configurations, it is suggesting to me that off of the daily chart, that this would be a key upside projection zone over the next 3 to 4 weeks. One more piece of information that I wanted to share as part of what we offer is that you get access to what we call our raw, this is a chart streams grid, but a raw multi-time frame grid where you can plug any symbol of your choice into it. And it's really helpful as you want to get into the actual entry and exit scenarios of these trade ideas. And so I talked about an intermediate, and I talked about a sort of a short-term outlook with GS as well. And when you get into the multiple time frame grid here, and I'm looking at the 2 hour, it's really helpful to then be able to see when the likelihood of that next leg up or down is in motion. And it also helps then to determine some potential reevaluation levels depending on your time frame. And so I'm on that 2 hour side right now, and you can see today that both of our momentum indicators turned back up. So a reversal scalp plus a slim ribbon turn back up. This would suggest that we probably have some more room to go on that upside. And if I was looking at those targets based on that swing low, a swing high, swing low here, then I would be looking in that near term 352 maybe to 356, where we might make that peak and then come back into some support area before we make that next advance.